welcome to the FreeMind Podcast. I have Gabby Fitzpatrick here. And how are you, Gabby? How's everything going today?
I'm great. I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Excellent. Doing very well. Doing very well. So we are here to talk about Damn Right Cocktails. How is everything going this year in 2023 with Damn Right Cocktails?
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that the year is almost over. It feels as if it just flew by, quite literally. I mean, I've been working my ass off, to say the least, to try to get this product into as many doors as possible. And we ended the year very, very well. I mean, the year's not over yet, so I don't want to say that. You never know what could happen tomorrow. That's the one thing, one of the big things that I've learned. You have no idea what could happen. So with all that to be said, I'm so optimistic about the next year, the next couple years for Damn Right, and I'm just excited to share as much as possible about this brand and get it into as many people's hands as possible.
So to
Yeah.
kind of going through Damn Right Cocktails, let's just start with the name. I mean, I love the name. You got the edginess, you got the aspect of it, and go through kind of your mission and what the brand's all about.
Right, right. I love this question. The Damn Right came out of a brainstorming session, and it really encapsulates the ethos of the brand, because we wanted something that was catered specifically for the bold female millennial audience. I'm a millennial myself, female millennial myself, and the reason why I brought this brand into fruition was because I thought that and I knew that there was nothing out there that really catered to this bold, maybe urban millennial woman that you see that lives in New York City, right? There's many brands out there in the tequila space that either cater to the male audience, or cowgirl ranch kind of influence, or the beachy vibe. There wasn't anything that just really struck out as in a bold, tough, damn right, no F's given, no BS. And that's really the inspiration behind the Damn Right name. And it really plays well, and people love it.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, it's as I was getting a little prep work done yesterday, I had on the big monitor, I had your website up, and immediately my wife can't zone out faster when I'm talking about work stuff, but it drew her eyes right in there. So
I know, I
we're
love
gonna let the
that.
cook in.
That's the goal. That's the goal. So it pops out on the shelf and people can see, oh, what is that? Has the Mexican influence on the can, because that's really what it is. It's a very authentic, made in Mexico product. And it speaks to you as soon as you're like, I want tequila. I want something that I can take a picture with and feel like I want to post about it and talk about it. And that's exactly what the brand is. And so I'm glad that that was resonated with your wife, and that's our goal.
Absolutely. So when did you guys get started? When did you kind of found it, and then when did the actual first sale occur?
Yes. So, this idea really came, just to give you a context of the whole story. I used to be a bartender in college, and I loved making cocktails. I was the designated cocktail maker of the group. You can ask all my girlfriends. And I started experimenting with low calorie cocktails, because we're all concerned about what we put in our bodies these days, especially as females. And when I was bartending, I noticed that there were very few spirits products out there that catered to this idea of a health forward, convenient, organic product. So fast forward, I graduated college, went into the corporate world, and I live in New York City, moved to New York City, and I did conferences and events surrounding pharmaceutical conferences. So all the operations with that. COVID hit, got laid off because that job was completely travel oriented. So during quarantine, I was with my family, diving back into my bartending skills, and I really delved into the tequila market because I love tequila. That's my spirit of choice. And, there was such massive growth opportunity, and still is. You see all these articles, tequila is super hot right now, and it will be for the next 10 years. And I I also love, the White Claw generation of convenience when it comes to drinking. And so, there was nothing out there that was a great tasting margarita in a can, so simplistically, but also there was nothing that was organic. And so this idea came to me that I wanted to create the first organic tequila RTD. And so I had this idea back in like May 2020, and took me a while to like actually put pen to paper. And, I found my business partner, and he had the connections down in Mexico for tequila. So we're like, let's just do this. We're going to do it. So we formed the company October 2020, October 9th, I think, 2020. So it's been 3 years, but then from forming the LLC to launch, it was about 9 months. And so we made our first sale in 10 months. We made our first sale in August of 2021, end of August. It was the day before my birthday. So, and yeah, I mean, that process of creating the brand was really interesting, and really what makes the brand unique in a lot of ways.
And when you were developing the brand, was it when you all were kind of spitballing? I like to go back to the old whiteboard and the initial ideas. Us creatives, business owners, it's always, it's great to see the polished version, but
Of course.
throw some of the ones out there that were like, you guys were coming out there and you're like, oh, this name is crazy, but it was close.
Yes. No, there was definitely, the biggest thing that kind of stuck out, or kind of was like, I can't believe we were thinking about that, was when we were doing the actual branding of it all. And we had 10 different, very, very different branding ideas. And, one of the ones that I really liked was having a superhero on it, like a woman, a woman superhero, and on the can. But then you think about these things, and when it plays out, it makes sense for me as the owner, but of the brand, and being this bold millennial audience. But then when it is in the market, it just wouldn't have played out. And so I'm so glad we didn't go with that, because people would have, I don't know if people would have even taken it off the shelf and looked at it, right? So, and it's also, we also had to survey a bunch of people and see what their responses were and which ones pulled the best, and ultimately the brand that we chose pulled the best. And so it just didn't come out of thin air. It was this culmination of people saying, yes, that's it. But yeah, maybe one day I'll bring in the superhero. I don't know.
Do a
The
limited,
options are
limited
endless.
release.
Yes,
That'll be your 32-ounce can.
I know. Well, they do that. There's a lot of beers actually out there that have those superhero influence, and I love the way they look. I think it's really cool, and I do like the limited edition. That's such a smart idea.
Well, that's cool. And just from a distribution standpoint too, only have, I know initially you're probably going to have some other brands and SKUs out there, but to roll out with only two, I mean, that's something that's palatable for a distributor. It's palatable for a retailer to absorb. You're not walking into their cold and saying, here's my 10 different types of products that I want you to, put on the shelf. You're sliding in with one or two, and you're keeping
Right.
it building from there and then expanding as you go. So that's a great strategy. Talk a little bit about, you're actually the first one I believe that I've had on that was a inception and growth during COVID. And I want to kind of talk about that in the sense of the challenges of, we talked to a lot of people about the challenges of running a business during COVID. I can't even imagine the challenge. I mean, we did a little bit with sanitizer, commercialized sanitizer with the distillery
Mm.
clients we had down the street. We were producing commercial sanitizer, so we had a bit of a overnight business kind of thing we had to build during COVID. But talk about
Right.
starting and actually all those permitting. I mean, the meetings and all the stuff you got to do while navigating that. You know.
Right. Wow. And also that must have been chaos.
Well,
Start like,
yeah, you guys must. I mean, a lot of people would have
yeah.
gave up. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like a lot of people would have gave up in your position, and I
Mhm.
want to give you credit for the fact that anybody that persevered through COVID, sustained their business, let alone started one and ramped it up.
Right.
Kudos through the board. I mean, it's
Thank
ridiculous.
you. Thank you. And I think, just to preface, I think COVID really changed a lot of people's mindsets when it came to life and what we wanted to do. And that was me. I was like, I'm not waiting anymore to start something that I'm passionate about. And I knew I was since, I was a kid, I knew I was going to do something. Yeah, I just didn't know what it was. And tequila is something that makes people happy. So, I didn't want to I wanted that to be happy, but to answer your question, I it was really challenging because, so we formed the company in October 2020 and then launched it September 2021. And number one, the supply chain, it was a nightmare trying to get our first production off the ground. And we produced the product in Mexico. So that in and of itself is a huge challenge, let alone having COVID in the way is another huge issue. And so specifically the aluminum shortage was a massive problem for us. Also juice was had a shortage, and we use organic strawberry juice in one of our flavors. And trying to find organic strawberry juice was, I can't even tell you how many places I called. We ended up having to ship it from Illinois all the way down to Jalisco, Mexico. So you can imagine those shipping costs. And that's another thing. Shipping costs, shipping the fuel was so expensive. And so rationalizing these prices to launch was just something that we had to, kind of settle with, because otherwise we weren't going to get it off the ground. And then, in terms of like the licensing and the permits, the biggest thing was the licensing of the certification for the co-packing facility down in Mexico, because we had to get it organic certified because, as I said, we were the first organic tequila ready to drink cocktail to ever launch in the entire world. And, Mexico has part of the reason why I love tequila so much is they have the entity that controls the standards of tequila called the CRT. I'm going to butcher the Spanish name, the like how do you pronounce it? So I don't, but you can look it up. But the CRT, and tequila is similar to champagne in that in order to be called champagne, you have to be produced in Champagne, France. 100% de agave tequila cannot be produced or bottled or canned anywhere else in the world except for Jalisco, Mexico. So we were the first canned 100% de agave tequila RTD to have these also this 100% de agave and the organic certification. So it was like this barrier to launch was, there were so many hurdles to overcome, and COVID had a massive part to do with the longevity of certifying these things. And specifically, and then to answer so that was a huge feat, but we did it. And then and it just came down to a lot of phone calls and a lot of talking to our co-packer and working with these people and ensuring that they were on task. So a lot of phone calls. And then the third thing that you asked about is the distribution. And the spirits industry is very archaic in the sense that they do everything in person. Like, it is unusual to have multiple Zoom meetings with your distributors. Like, they want you in person. And so I think it was a huge shock to the industry, even though I was just entering the industry. So it wasn't like a shock to me, but you could tell that some of these distributors had trouble with the whole COVID thing, a lot of trouble because they couldn't have their suppliers come in person. So, and there was issues with delivering because it was like, where are these workers and all those things. But ultimately, people, that's the beauty of our economy, is that I think people really learn how to adjust. And so I was grateful for that. But I think looking back, it was just chaos. It was such chaos. And it was just kind of one thing after the other, but it was like, you have no idea, like I said in the beginning, you have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. But that's the exciting part of it. And we were able to kind of persevere and launch the brand ultimately. And you're going to have problems regardless of what industry, regardless of what's going on. And so I don't know, I'm just grateful that we were able to do it. Right.
Absolutely. It's funny you said about the distributors, like the number one gripe was not being able to have the suppliers in house. I spent
Absolutely.
I spent 10 years as a vice president of the craft and business development division for a big wholesaler outside of Baltimore. And
Wow.
when we were doing it originally, we had multiple locations throughout our territory, and we had multiple sales reps in those multiple locations. And we we would when I first started there, it was 2010, no 2011, and we were having these people drive 3 hours like every Monday to come to this meeting.
That's
And they
exactly how it is.
and I believe it still goes on some places. But I immediately, one of the first things, the first year I was there, I had 6 or 7 guys that were spread hours across different territories. I was like, nope, you're not coming in. I bought everybody iPads. I taught them how to use FaceTime. I started like hooking up cameras into the boardrooms. So no longer were driving. Everybody was going to their specific boardroom and their specific location, and then
Right.
we were zooming or whatever else. And it was like brains just exploding all over the place. Like everybody was looking at me like I was just crazy and like all this stuff. And then eventually, after a couple of months, this is right before COVID. So
Right.
this is 2016, I guess, is when I finally got the iPads in. So it took me 5 years to get them onto iPads, and then we get in there. But long story short is I was selling my remote services prior to COVID, and distributors and the alcohol industry was always the one that like shunned it. And then as soon as everybody got into it, they're like, wait a second. Instead of hitting 20 accounts a day driving with all that windshield time, I can make 50 to 100 phone calls a day. I'm like, yeah. And then people start to get
Yes,
they're
and
like, oh wow, I get it.
I completely agree. I completely agree. The problem is getting the accounts
Yes.
to answer the phone.
That still is 100% an issue. And that's one where
Right.
you have to work in tandem with a rep that's in the market. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was just such like for me coming from the corporate world, it was such a shock because I was like, it seems super inefficient, but it's really just all relationship based.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the point of it. And I love the efficiency of Zoom and phone calls. And I think that you can get so much more done that way. But then there's also just the in-person vibe is so different and
It's a different psychological feel.
right.
Yeah.
100%. And it's hard to fix an industry that is so used to the
Yeah.
in-person.
And at the end of the day, it's going to take a while. And like you said, it's from the retail side, and a lot of them are coming along. I mean, we've done during COVID, we were doing sales for e-commerce, where we were basically implementing
Right.
coding into their websites to allow them to do e-commerce efficiently. Like we were able to get it in their websites, get them up online in about 48 hours, and that way during COVID, with all the curbside deliveries and stuff, they didn't have to close. Whenever they
Right.
were like in Pennsylvania here, especially, like they weren't allowed to go in and out for a little while. So they were able to have curbside pickups, delivery, stuff like that. So anyway, and then through that process, I learned it was a very big crash course of retail, and realizing that retail is very much you're lucky sometimes to get an email address out of some of these guys, let alone show them
Oh.
how to become.
Yeah, no one gets an email address. Like everything is literally it's so funny because I'll call on some accounts and it's just useless at this point because I'll call a phone call and I'll be like, okay, well, I wanted to check on X, my damn right, blah, 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 whatever, how much you have. Like, okay, come in the store tomorrow and we can check it out. I'll see you then. I'm like, okay, well, I'm in New York and you're in Denver. So but that's why you have the reps, so you can work with them on a daily basis to figure out those needs from the
And that's
retailer.
and
But
exactly that's what we do. That we're basically, we look at ourselves, we're the supplemental air support is what we call ourselves. So
right.
we're calling, we're filling in, we're keeping everything peace of mind. We're getting the samples delivered by the distributor reps and things like that, working in tandem with them. But I have to tell you one before we move into the other part is funny part is as we're selling these e-commerce things, and you're mentioning about, hey, come on in. I can list about 12, probably 12 or so, and I won't name the states. But actually, we're like, yeah, just here's my address. Mail me the information, and then we'll get it set up. I don't have a computer. I'm like, if I have to mail you,
No way.
if I have to mail you the information, I said you're not listening to what I'm trying to sell you. So I said, no offense. I said it's not really going to work. But moving forward, I want to I want to back up a little bit to kind of the inceptions of Damn Right Cocktails, and I want to, you mentioned bartending and things like that, and building the brand in through there, and all those features. But what actually was the point when you said, because there's a different decision too. There's the decision of the product, but then there's the decision of your lifestyle. What was the kind of change in your life where you said, you know what, I'm going to carve my own path? Because you could have
Yeah,
easily went and worked for a tequila company and then created something from the inside out.
right.
So you took
And
a bold move.
I have a specific answer to this. I think I've always, now that I'm in it, now that I'm an entrepreneur, and that word is so funny to say, but and I never considered myself an entrepreneur, but now that I'm in it, I'm proud of it. And it's not for everyone. And I've realized now that I'm in it, I was meant to do this and meant to build. And the reason why and what changed, to answer your question, was as I was working in the corporate world, I had an interesting conversation with like my boss at the time, and I have been always operating at 150%. Like I just have an insane amount of energy, and I'm constantly wanting to move and to build and do something that goes 10 steps further than the person next to me. And I think it's just my competitive nature. But what happened was I said to my boss at the time, and there was and I said, I want to get a raise. And it wasn't even about the money. I was like, I want to push. I want to grow. I want to get to the next level. I want to get to the next step. And this was when I was in the corporate world. I was like, I want to get to the next step as quick as possible. How do I do that? What do I need to do? What do I need to prove? What conferences do you need to put me on? What do I need to do to get to that next step? Because I will do it. I will work 80 hours a week to make this happen. And he said, no, it's a matter of you being, you have to be here for X amount of time in order to get to the next promotion. Because I had just gotten a promotion and I was like, no, this is too easy for me. I want to be farther along, and I want a more bigger challenge. And so it was kind of a switch in me that I was like, I realized that what I'm doing now, I can't get to the next level without climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak. And I just didn't want to wait. And so that's the impetus of me wanting to build this and build something on my own. And then like tequila specifically, I honestly just saw the market, and I saw the real opportunity that there was, and how quickly it's grown. And that was back in 2020, and now it's even farther along. And so I really, I just hit it at the perfect time. And I think that that's luck in a way. And that's not to say I've made it at all. I'm really working hard, and there is, so many challenges, and I just am grateful, if the brand stops tomorrow, right? Not saying that it will. I'm just grateful for the experience and all the people that I've met, and going down to Mexico and really creating the product with these people down there. It was just so magnificent, and I really have learned an incredible amount in the couple years. So that's a long-winded answer, but yeah, I think it's just something that came to me, and I'm grateful for it.
That's really, at the end of the day, that starts to be what sets people apart. There's a lot of people that are out there that have a lot of drive and a lot of passion and things like that, and they can use a lot of things for a lot of great things for other companies and things like that. But it takes another step to, and I'm selfishly adding myself in there. It takes another step
Right.
to persevere through and really just kind of push through on this stuff. And I really, and for you especially, to build something for a demographic and a market that is underserved in this industry. Myself having 4 daughters, it's one of those
Yeah.
things that
Oh
I love.
wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's
Amazing.
where all my hair went. I used to have long,
Right.
luscious locks a couple years back. Just kidding. That's one of those things that seeing products like this, and then on the backside of things, from a health conscious standpoint, not even a health conscious standpoint, just getting the garbage out of the products that we consume these days.
Right.
You're getting an organic product in. There's a lot of brands out there, especially in the RTD space. And I'm not going to call out any brands on this, but you do have some very interesting videos and things like that are online where you start to lay down the differences, and even just from a calorie content standpoint, from a sugar based standpoint, and things like that.
Right.
There's a whole another layer of chemical standpoints in that. We do a lot of work in the regenerative agriculture space also, with a CBD company that's over in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So it's a third generation regenerative farm, and very much focused on
Wow.
doing CBD the right way. So we're very anti Delta 8s, like doing all kinds of stuff like that, like doing things the correct way. And that's seeing your product out there. And I know it's one of those things that you might say you're lucking in the timing of it, but I'm going to give you some more credit to it because you're checking a lot of boxes of things that are
Thank
very
you.
popular right now. And that'd be a big pile of shit if you stepped in it by accident. So, yeah.
Right. All right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, but it's no. I think what you have is fantastic. I'm not going to take up any more of your time today. I really appreciate your time. I hope that we can do a follow up here. I see how many states are you in right now? Just while before we close out, how many states and kind of any chains or anything like that, and locals or anything that pop off for you?
Yes, I'm in 9 states right now.
Oh, excellent.
Hopefully gonna add Florida next year, which I'm excited and like I said, never know what's gonna pop up. So maybe in other states, but we're gonna add a couple new SKUs next year, which I'm really excited about. So we'll round it out at 4 flavors. You can go to my website, damrightcocktails.com. We ship to 33 states. So you can use Damn Free at checkout to get free shipping. And yes, we're in a couple regional chains. We're in Total Wine and More in Texas. DM me if you have any questions because I will answer every DM and try to get the word out as much as possible. It's a really great tasting product and I'm just happy to share it with with people in the US. It's really really good.
So thanks again, Gabby, and everybody. DamnRightCocktails.com. That store locator. You pop in your zip code, it'll give you everything around there. And if it's not around you, you'll be able to walk through, like you said, 33 states you can ship into directly in there. So everybody, check it out there, Gabby. We really appreciate your time today. Go out there and grab yourself some Damn Right cocktails.